All right, we are live with the Combatcast, and we are going to talk about this week's UFC Fight Night. And before we do that, I just want to say first, guys, if you're out there watching us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do, we would appreciate it. Chevy, before we get into today's show, why don't you tell people what we got coming up?
All right, May 3rd, UFC Fight Night. Sandhagen versus Figueiredo. That's a 10 p.m. main card from Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah, that's a late one. May 10th, UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena, 10 p.m. from Montreal. Welterweight belt on the line there, which, this fight coming up this week could have some implications based on that one. And then May 17th, UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales, 7 p.m. back in the Apex. Poor Gilbert Burns stuck in the Apex, fighting murderers.
All right, so before we get into the fight night, let's talk about what's around the ring. And Chevy, any rumors, news, or notes to cover?
Yeah, apparently there's a rumor going around that DDP has an injury, has to pull out of his International Fight Week fight versus Hamzat. So hopefully that John Jones fight can get signed immediately against Aspinall, because they, need to promote that for 2 months. If that doesn't happen, then
I don't know.
It'll have to be Islam or something like that, because obviously it's got to be a big name.
Yeah, I'm trying to think for International Fight Week, what you would do. Islam Makhachev.
Ilya.
Yeah, I mean, he could step. Well, DDP is the one who's injured, so it's not. Yeah. It's not Chimaev. Usually, that's our go-to. That makes it a little easier.
They're gonna push that fight. I don't think they're gonna have Hamzat fight somebody else. So it'll have to be a new main event,
Yeah, I don't know what else you could put in that other than Jones and Aspinall, as far as having the same impact of a huge fight.
Yeah, you could do the Ankalaev and Pereira rematch, I guess.
Do that.
I don't know if both guys are ready, but
it's safe. You could always try something daring. You could put Paddy Pimblett on this card too. Maybe, fresh off of that, his win and the momentum against, it wouldn't be maybe that you'd almost want two big fights then, but Paddy in a Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier and Max, you could stack it up. You know what I mean? Almost
they gotta, the UFC, I don't feel like they need to, but I feel like they feel like they need to have a title fight. If
they don't have a title fight, then they're going to do their best to stack this up.
Yeah.
What's the is Max still the BMF championship?
Yeah, Max and Dustin is the rumored. I don't know when that is supposed to go down.
Final fight. Dustin's final fight for the BMF title. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, and then you could add Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje on that card too, and boom, then you'd have a stacked card with some interesting fights you could always pull off. I'm not saying they'll do that, but they got possibilities, I guess. So we'll see.
Well, I heard that Rogan's latest podcast with Ilya did 2.5 million downloads the first day or something like that. And that's big numbers even for him. Mm-hmm. So, maybe Ilya, and I know we don't want to keep seeing Makhachev beating up the 145ers, but
he might not.
he might not. Yeah, he might not. But that's a big fight. It's a super fight, so that could be a headliner as well.
It would be fitting for International Fight Week too, almost too.
So. All right, and Makhachev's due for a fight. He hasn't fought since last year, so.
Yeah, so there's possibilities. All right.
Before we jump into that, well, we'll just continue this along because it keeps going. But the PFL 2025 World Tournament first round is continuing. Light heavyweights and heavyweights this week. I think it's May 1st. So that it's going to be headlined by Phil Davis and Rob Wilkinson. There's a few former UFC guys on this card, but you can check that out on ESPN Plus if you're so inclined.
All right.
Let's get into this this week's fight card. UFC Fight Night, Machado Garry versus Prates, Kansas City, 9 p.m. Eastern main card.
All right, Carlos Prates and Ian Garry. Before we get on the main event, co-main event, are there any fights you want to shout out on this card?
Yeah, so prelim featured bout, Matt Schnell. I know you're a fan. Matt Schnell and Jimmy Flick. That's a pretty good flyweight matchup. But the undercard in general, the main card is not giant names, but fun fights. You got Ikram Aliskerov versus Andre Muniz leading the card off. That's pretty fun. I'm a fan of Randy Brown versus Nicolas Dalby. Pretty good. Yep. Michel Pereira, always fun. Might have a hard time, but he's fighting Abus Magomedov. Tough to be fun against that guy. And then I am very excited for this featherweight fight. Giga Chikadze versus David Onama. That could be a very fun fight for sure.
Yeah, that's the one I was just looking at now. I was curious. Yeah, so this is not a bad card.
Yeah, not a bad card.
There's some good fights here.
But let's get in this co-main event because I am excited for the end of Anthony Smith's career because I'm sick of seeing him get beat up. So this is Anthony Smith versus Zhang Mingyang.
Interesting fight. Mingyang is 18-6. And when I looked at that record at first, I thought, okay. I was like, this is probably an evenly matched fight. And then I realized that he's on like an 11-fight win streak. He's 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes, because his whole career has been 12 knockouts and 6 subs. And I just realized, oh, no, this guy's just been on a tear. He started out a little rough. So these two are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. But if you just look at the records, Anthony Smith, 38-21, 20 KOs, 15 subs, 3 decisions. Performance of the night 6 times, Fight Night once. I mean, Anthony's had a great career. He's solid in there, but obviously he is at the tail end of his career. I wish him luck. Part of me maybe even hope he gets the victory, but I also know that if he gets the victory, that's that dangling carrot then, right? So, but I don't logically see that happening here. It's a fight. You never know what's happened. Anthony's fought better people. He has more experience, but Mingyang, I got to pick him. I'm going to go second round TKO because I feel like Anthony will probably not tap. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but I think he'll either pass out or get finished. But I'll say Mingyang TKO round 2.
Yeah, Smith is a plus 380, Mingyang a minus 500. Those are big numbers in MMA for sure. So obviously Vegas is leading towards Mingyang as well. This is Smith's last fight. He's getting this relatively unknown guy who hasn't lost in 5 years, like you mentioned. Anthony was incredibly emotional in his last outing due to the death of his coach and friend, Scotty Morton, right? So that was a very tough fight to watch. He looked like he was just in there to purposely take a beating, which he did. So I don't think, knowing that this is his last fight, I assume there'll be some video package because he's a UFC employee, you know, not just as a fighter, but he's an analyst and stuff. So I'm sure there'll be some sort of package. I don't think knowing this is his last fight will make him any less emotional than he was then. So I have to pick Zhang. I'm with you. I assume Zhang's going to get a TKO. I'll say round 3. I think Anthony's going to hang in there, but I hope Lionheart can go out with a win, but my brain says no.
Same. All right, main event.
All right, Ian Machado Garry versus Carlos Prates.
All right, fun fight. Good fight, high-level fight. Carlos Prates fighting nerds, 21-6, 16 KOs, 3 subs, 2 decisions. Like Mingyang, he's on an 11-fight win streak, 4-0 in the UFC, all finishes, 4 performance of the night bonuses. So this guy has been on a tear. He's part of that Fight in Nerds camp, I believe. So they've been on a tear. Have they even lost yet in the UFC as a team?
They have one female athlete in their camp who I don't know her name, and I don't remember seeing her fight, but she did lose a decision, I think. So, but all the rest of them are undefeated in the UFC.
Like 20-something and 1 or 18-19. So yeah, they're doing really good. Ian Machado Garry, though, 15-1, 7 KOs, 1 sub, 7 decisions. Performance of the night once. Yeah, he's tied Leon Edwards for 3rd longest win streak in UFC welterweight division history. He is coming off his first loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov. No shame in that, and he looked like incredible in that loss.
Short notice in that fight.
Yeah.
As well.
So this is a tough fight to pick because the fighting nerds have been on fire and Prates has looked so good. But Ian Garry definitely has had the tougher competition when you look at that fight he's lost on short notice. So I'm going to pick Ian Garry here, but this could go either way. And also, who knows how Ian Garry is going to fight after a loss? It could be better. It could be worse.
Right.
But this is no easy matchup for him either. Right? So, but I'm going to go Garry, and I'm going to go by decision because I feel like these two are going to be high level. Although we have not seen Carlos in any kind of 5-round capacity fight. So as it gets later, I will be interested to see how that goes for him. Not to say that he can't beat Ian in a decision, not to say he won't rise to the occasion. It's just that unknown factor for me right now.
Right. Cardio, and we know he's a smoker, right? So
yeah.
Another short notice fight for Ian Garry against another super dangerous opponent. I believe he's stepping in on like 20 days notice or something for Jeff Neal, I think.
That's a good point too. I forgot about that. So we'll see. Yeah.
This time though, Ian is putting his number 7 ranking on the line versus the number 13 instead of, the being the B side. So the risk reward isn't in his favor for sure this time. So but you mentioned Prates, 11 straight wins, 10 straight KO finishes, 4 of them in the UFC. So like you mentioned, fighting nerds guy, we know how great they are. I've been on their jock for a while now. They are a great team. So all killers. But after seeing Ian take Shavkat to that close decision, I'm with you. I'm going to pick him. I don't think he's going to make the fight very exciting. In fact, I think he's going to make it boring on purpose. Sure. Lots of clinching and wrestling to wear on Carlos. He also posted a video of Carlos way back in the day quitting, not like getting knocked out, but like in the just saying enough in a fight. So, a little bit of a mind game there, and knowing that we haven't seen Carlos fight 5 rounds, like you said, Ian's going to look to take him to the deep water. So I think that's what he's going to do. Ultimately, he'll get a decision, but I think it's going to be a tough fight to watch.
Also, I do have to say, hats off to Ian Garry for taking this fight on short notice with not much to gain. That just shows to me that he is a fighter who wants to learn, get better, but also
supremely confident as well. I think his confidence is unmatched by most fighters,
Yeah. We'll see how it goes this weekend. All right, Chevy, it's going to be a quick one today. Why don't we tell people what we got coming up one more time?
Well, first, I'd just like to thank you, Dave, and thank the fans. This is our 200th episode, so we're setting milestones out here. So thanks, everyone. Like and subscribe. But going forward, May 3rd, UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Figueiredo. And then May 10th, UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. And then May 17th, UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales.
What's funny too, by the way, is on a side note, I think the Regular Working Fans podcast live show has got episode 299 this week. So
nice.
Literally, with the exception of probably a few, because I might have missed 2 or 3 of them, I've almost done 500 episodes of just live shows.
There you go.
But hey, enough about me. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy the fight night this week. We will be back here with more action. And enjoy combat sports.